Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. You'll notice something a little different about today's video, and that is that we are inside. And so I'm in my dining room and I'm sitting down with my seeds and thinking about what are the things I want to grow through the remaining of the fall, what I'm going to grow for next spring, and I figured this would be a really good time to talk about seeds. So I started my gardening journey about 5 years ago. And when I discovered the sheer amount of variety that was available when you start from seed versus buying transplants, I was hooked. I was done, and I've been starting my garden from seed ever since. Now I still do buy transplants, but I love starting from seed. I love seeing that process of having a tiny little seedling grow up into a big plant and see it fruiting and just see the whole life cycle of the plant. It's really exciting. So today I'm hoping to give you guys a little bit of education from my experience starting seeds and hopefully inspire you to start your own seeds if you haven't already. So why would you want to start from seed versus buying transplants? So the number one reason that I prefer to start from seed versus buying transplants is because it's more economical for me. So it's a lot cheaper for me to buy a $3 pack of seeds and get however many plants I want, and usually I can use those seeds over the entire year versus buying one plant and only having that one plant, especially because I have such a large growing space. So that may not be true for someone who just has like a balcony container garden or just a smaller space. So I'm growing on a little under a quarter of an acre, and so I need multiple plants. The second reason why I choose to start from seed versus buying transplants is because there's a lot of variety when you are choosing to start from seed. So I was completely blown away when I first started my gardening journey and I saw a seed catalog for the first time. I had no idea that there were so many different tomatoes, so many different flowers, so many different colors and types and sizes, and just the sheer variety is just chef's kiss. It's really addicting to start seeds when you are looking at a seed catalog, especially like in the winter when you're preparing for your spring garden. It's really exciting to think about, and you can really, find your favorite things to grow instead of being dictated, instead of like your options being dictated by whatever is being sold by the grower near you. The third reason why I prefer to start from seed versus buying transplants is because you have more control over the growing process. So say you buy a transplant from your local grower, you get home and it dies, or they just don't look very good when you go to the store. You have no idea how that plant's been taken care of. And I've even heard stories of people buying things and them not being the actual plant once it starts to fruit. So when you start from seed, you have more control over the process, and you can make sure that you're growing the healthiest possible plant for your garden. The fourth and final reason that I prefer to grow from seed versus buying transplants is because I can find things that do really well in my area. So I can, look at advice from our local extension agents and, our agricultural colleges to see, what breeds do well here. And I can find those seeds and I can grow those things. Versus if I'm at like my local big box store, they likely won't have things that are catered to my area because they're just like mass producing plants that are gonna, just kind of generic plants. But when I start from seed, I can find seeds that do well, particularly in the hot, humid South where I live. So let's talk about the different kinds of seeds. So when you're looking at seeds, I know there's a lot of talk about, just in the food kind of industry period, there's a lot of talk about GMOs, hybrids, heirlooms, things like that. So let's kind of demystify a little bit of that language because it can be really confusing, right? So let's start with GMOs. So GMO seeds are seeds that have been, so these plants have had their DNA, modified. They have been genetically modified to have certain traits. And this is something that people are really, really afraid of. And I'm not here to say what's right and what's wrong or what's better or what's worse, but you can't buy GMO seeds. We don't have access to them as home growers, so that's not something that you need to worry about. The large company who shall not be named is not going to come and sue you or anything like that for accidentally getting their seeds. We don't have access to GMO seeds, so no worries there. The two other types of seeds you'll hear about a lot are heirloom seeds and hybrid seeds. So heirloom seeds are things that have been passed down through generations. You can save the seeds from them, and you know that it's going to grow an exact clone of the plant that you had the year before. So heirlooms are said to taste better, be more nutritious, and then contribute to genetic diversity. And you also have a lot more control over your food supply because you can save the seeds and know that you're going to get the same plant next year. Now with hybrids, that's not true. So hybrids do not, they don't grow true. So hybrid plants have been bred, and hybridization, I want to say, is something that's been going on since the dawn of time. It's been happening forever, that humans have been breeding plants to have specific characteristics. So hybridization is not necessarily a bad thing. It's not the same as genetically modified. So when I first started growing, I only grew heirloom seeds, and I still grow a significant amount of heirloom plants. But now that I'm kind of really, really getting an interest in cut flowers, a lot of those seeds are hybrid. So I'm having to buy hybrid seeds, and I'm noticing that they can be really beneficial because they have been bred to withstand certain environments and to have certain characteristics, and that can be really important, especially as we continue to deal with the effects of climate change. Having those hybrid seeds that have been bred to be able to thrive in certain environments is going to be really, really great. So yeah, I think hybrids are going to be really important moving forward. Another kind of categorization of seeds that you'll see is organic versus non-organic. So for me, the distinction as far as seeds doesn't matter to me. I personally believe that once I get the seed to my garden and I'm growing it organically, it's going to be fine, especially if it's an heirloom and I can save the seed and that seed is organic. It doesn't make sense to me personally to spend more on organic seeds unless you just really want to support organic farmers, which is a really great thing. But I know that not everyone has access to be able to buy the most organic, pure seeds. And I just want to say that it's not necessary in my opinion. It's all about how the plant is treated once you get into the ground, what you're doing to the fruit. That's what matters. So go to the dollar store, buy some seeds, and they'll germinate and they'll do excellent. Use what you have. That's going to be the most important thing. So what do you need to start seeds? I'm going to go outside and do a demo in just a second, but basically you're going to need a container, a light source, water, seeds of course, and some kind of growing medium. So usually I use potting mix. It's recommended to use a sterile seed starting mix, and that can be really, really helpful. Sometimes I do use that, but if I'm starting seeds outside, I like to use potting mix because seed starting mix dries out super fast, and I live in a really hot climate, and my growing space gets direct hot sun all day. So it's more likely that my seeds are going to dry out if I use a seed starting mix versus using potting mix, which is what I use. So where do you buy seeds from? Some of my favorite seeds companies are, I have my little seed bag here. So like I said, you can buy seeds from the dollar store, they'll do fine. You can buy seeds from your big box store, that's fine as well. But as far as online companies, there are a few places that I like to buy from. I've been buying a lot from Uprising Seeds lately. I really love their seed descriptions. It makes me feel like I know the plant. And so I've been buying from them lately because I don't know if it's the advertising because the description's so good, but I'm like, ooh, that sounds really great. I'm gonna buy that plant. So Uprising Seeds, Kitsuzawa Seed, I ordered from them for the first time this year and had a really good experience. Everything arrived really fast and I got some really good varieties. Another seed company, Baker Creek. So this company is controversial, but they have a very large catalog, and they're one of the most popular ones, and they have free shipping. So if shipping costs are a hindrance to you, you can order from them as well. And I'll put links to all these in the description box below. True Love Seeds. I love True Love Seeds. I've ordered from them maybe once or twice, but they have really great varieties, and I love the stories behind the seeds. They usually have a story in the seeds. Other seed companies, Seed Mail. Seed Co, I think it is. This is a Black-owned brand, and she always has a really great variety. She's super fun to watch. I love ordering from her, and they're really affordable. In My Gardener is another place that I've ordered seeds from. I haven't ordered from them in a while, for no particular reason. I just, I think everything kind of goes in cycles. Plant Good Seed. This is another place that I order from. If you're looking for like medicinal seeds for medicinal plants, Strictly Medicinal Seeds is a really great place to order from. I've ordered from them a lot for my medicinal seeds because I am an herbalist, so I grow a lot of herbs for tea blends and tinctures and things like that. So that's usually my go-to resource for medicinal herb seeds. And let's see, where else? I think that's it. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Johnny's Seeds. Johnny's is a very popular seed company, especially with farmers. So they have a lot of variety. They have a lot of tools and things that you can use in your garden as well. So what are some issues you may encounter when you're starting seeds? So the biggest one that I experience, and this is something that I kind of mentioned earlier, is drying out. Because I've been starting my seeds outside, I have a huge issue with them drying out because, like I said, my area gets really hot sun, and so I have to water them twice a day. And so when you're starting from seed, you want to think it's going to have really shallow roots. So it's only getting water in that top, just that very, very top area of the soil. So if that's drying out, the seed has no moisture and it's going to die. So you want to make sure that you're staying on top of watering so that, when the plant germinates, it can grow because it still has access to moisture. On the opposite side of that, you could have issues with dampening off. So if your soil is too moist, or if it has bacteria in it, so that's why it's recommended to use a sterile mix versus like a potting mix or something like that, because you don't know what bacteria is in there, and that can cause your seeds to die or to like mold or to just rot. So you kind of have to do your own process and see what works best for you. When in doubt, go for a sterile seed starting mix. One of the last ones is legginess. So legginess is what happens when your plants don't have adequate access to the sunlight. And so they're trying to reach and find the sun, because plants are always, that's how they feed themselves. So they're going to reach for the light source. And so if you're starting from inside with a grow light, you want to start with the light. So if this is my seeds and this is the light, you want it to be as close as possible. So I start right there. And then once they, as they get taller, you're gonna, bump it up and bump it up and bump it up. But you want it to be as close as possible so that your seeds aren't, they're not reaching and having that one long stem. You want it to be short and vigorous. And this is because you don't want to have a fragile plant. So when they're reaching for the sky like that, they're not focusing on developing roots. And two, that little flimsy stem that they're making is not going to be very strong, especially when you transplant them outside and they have to actually deal with the elements. When you're starting seeds inside, they're not having that same exposure to the elements. And so when you put them outside, you have to do what's called hardening off. And this is going to be true anytime you're starting seeds inside, because You can't just have something inside this little nice environment and then put it out on the streets and be like, expect it to thrive. So you have to kind of baby them. So when you're hardening off seedlings, you want to, gradually increase the time that you're leaving them outside. So you want to start with maybe 30 minutes or then push to an hour. And usually in about a week, you can fully acclimate them to being outside, depending on your circumstances. So the final thing I want to say about starting seeds is to keep a journal. This is something I haven't really been great at over the years, but I'm getting a lot better. And it's really important to keep records because it's good to be able to look back and say, especially if you're trying to check for ripeness or to, keep track of things, it's good to be able to say, 30 days ago on whatever date, I planted these tomatoes, so I can expect them to be ripe in this amount of time. Yeah, so that's some information about seeds. So let's go outside and plant some.